Hello, and welcome to the Change of Plans podcast. I'm Anaita Azizi, and this is a podcast where we talk about unexpected turns, bold moves, and what happens when life doesn't go according to plan. Each episode, I sit down with people who've changed careers, taken risks, or completely redefined what success looks to them. We talk about the messy middles, the lessons learned, and why sometimes the best things happen when the plan falls apart. So whether you're in the middle of a pivot, thinking about making a change, or just here for the stories, welcome, and let's get into it. My guest today is someone I've been following for a while, Agnieszka Walorska. She's a founder, product thinker, speaker, and someone who has a way of making complex things feel human, practical, and necessary. She's built and sold companies, founded Mika, a generative AI startup tackling bureaucratic chaos small businesses face in Germany, and has worked at the intersection of ethics, AI, design, and leadership. But this conversation is much more than a founder story. We talk about building companies' thoughtful and strategic process of finding a co-founder and navigating team dynamics as someone who is also neurodivergent. Agnieszka shares what it means to lead when you need different conditions to thrive and how being open with her team has impacted the way she works. We also talk about the glorification of resilience and why sometimes knowing when to quit is just as important as pushing through. This is an episode for builders, leaders, and anyone figuring out how to work with rather than against themselves. Let's get into it. People and one story was better than the other. And I came across you actually. I saw your LinkedIn post. I don't remember which one exactly, whether it was from I'm Not Going to Splash or...
This one went viral. That was crazy.
I'm thinking whether I followed you after that or there was one being like, oh, I got a letter from Steuerberater. No, from Finanzamt, and it was a scary letter, but we have a translator for that.
Yeah, exactly. Funny, yeah.
I think that was one of the few times I also commented on LinkedIn because, I don't know, it just spoke to me. Good. Yeah. So that's how I met you. And then I met you online. And then I read more about Mika. And the thing is, when I started working for startups, one of my first assignment, just unpromptly, that was something they just needed and had no one to do, is to fix their 2022, 2023 accounting years.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I came, it was just not
Sounds
closed.
Like fun.
And I was like, oh yeah, the deadline is next week. And I'm like, cool. So I've done a lot of things manually because of how they documented or rather not documented stuff. And I kind of taught myself some accounting basics, not accounting basics, but like finance management of a person on this side. Started looking for clients, and now I have like some clients who also need this kind of support. So that's why when I started researching into Mika, she's like, damn, this lady is stealing my bread.
Not necessarily, but I think the people will still need a human maybe in the loop. Yeah.
First of all, thank you so much for accepting my invitation. I was in that stage where some guests who I've had, or like all the guests who I've had, they knew me somewhat. It was a warm connection. And when I reached out to you, it was after the event where I didn't spoke to you directly. We spoke a little bit about the mic setup, but that was it. I had to leave earlier, so I didn't get to speak to you in person. But I really like the name of the event. Is like, why shouldn't you found anything in Germany?
Oh, okay, this one, yeah.
But
okay.
why I did anyway?
But why you might do it anyway, yeah.
Yeah, because after working with some founders and seeing like the stress they go through out of nowhere, you just get some, I don't know, suddenly you have funding on your bank account and you don't know where it comes from. I was like, I don't want to say I'm never gonna found in Germany, because the moment I say never, something happens 3 months later and I do it. So yeah, I'd like to talk to you about your ventures. Back to the first thing that you said at that event, that you already had a successful business, bootstrapped, very like bringing you profit, and then you decided to sell it. And why?
I've been doing it for 9 years, and it was a service business. And I'm a product person, and I have had enough of telling people how to build their products and not having influence on how it turns out at the end. So I just really, to be honest, I just really wanted out of the service business. And after 9 years, it was enough. I was ready for something else.
And straight into the startup world.
Back to the startup world. Yeah, so I mean, it was clear to me that I want to start something in technology again and be more on the product side. I mean, actually, I started my company in 2011 with the goal to just earn enough money to start building products, which then didn't happen because it's very difficult to, prioritize multiple things at the same time when it comes to business. But the passion of building products never left me, and I was ready to start doing it for myself and not for clients.
How come? I know your response will be from bureaucratic trauma is how the Mika was born. Not an easy challenge to tackle straight into the German bureaucracy, especially coming with a migrant background.
I mean, as a founder, I went through this in the 9 years of having my own business, my first business. So I probably went through every issue that you can have, starting business, having audits, having stuff messed up, paying fines for things that you didn't know that you had to do, selling business, then closing a business, because we did the asset sale. So we basically sold the assets from the company. We kept kind of the company. We had to rename it. And then we had to liquidate it, which we are still doing because it takes a long time.
So how long the liquidation in Germany takes? I thought it's a year.
Yeah, it's more than a year normally. And the problem was we had a lawsuit. So we were about to get money from the whatever. Yeah, complicated lawsuits in Germany also another thing, very complicated. But it's difficult to close it when there's still basically the books are not really closed because there is still stuff happening there. So.
And was all of this happening in the background? You started Mika AI together with your co-founder, which then you have to find new co-founders.
Yes. So he decided that at the end, not the topic that he wants to dedicate his life to, and that the timing is also not perfect for him to be an entrepreneur, which is a respectable decision. At the end, it was good for me.
You spoke about it before, but there was a situation. The thing is, a co-founder quitting is maybe a rare situation, but also not that rare. I've seen it already happening a couple of times, and the mess it kind of leaves behind because of the shares, because of the investor relationship.
I kept a very good relationship with the investors, and the messy thing, the co-founder quitting is one thing. The things get usually messy when people don't have proper vesting in place, and especially if there is not a situation that one is quitting, but a situation where you potentially have different ideas of where to move forward with the company, but no one is quitting, and then there is a fight about who keeps the company, how is it with the, how to deal with the shares. So it was very peaceful transition because I think, the values and priorities were very well aligned. The investors decided to, stuck with me for a while while I find stuff out. And with my ex-co-founder, there was not a discussion that he wanted to be paid out or whatever, and which is always, that's why it's always good to have also vesting if something like this happens, because otherwise you have potentially debt equity on a cap table, which will basically make your company uninvestable.
Yeah, I've seen that happen. You found right now co-founders, right?
Yes.
For me, it's also an interesting topic. I'd like to talk a little bit more about it. I've had experience of not founding a startup, but founding an association, or rather failed experience of founding an association. And there was something, we got together as former colleagues, but also friends. And I think we didn't have a really good mechanism of communicating to each other things that we don't like. But already there was this base trust because, we're friends, right? And so founding a co-founder that you don't know closely, or how, could you speak more about this process?
Yeah, you have to really invest a lot of time and energy to getting to know each other. So they were both basically warm connections, but we still didn't really know each other. So there is, I believe in the process that I use. So obviously there is something like, gut feeling, but I'm a data person. I don't rely on gut feeling only, of course. Obviously you kind of need to like this person. At least that's what I believe, because you will spend a lot of time with them. Probably you will spend more time with them than with your significant other. So it's helpful when you get along fine, but being friends is usually not really enough, and because being friends doesn't really that doesn't really mean that you have the same priorities when it comes to your life and your business. So I use there is like kind of this co-founder checklist from Entler, which is very good because it covers really the basics. And basically, if the basics don't work, like, one person imagines going like all in and working completely full time, like more than full time on a business, and the other person is looking for a side hustle. The one person is like, okay, I'm bootstrapping, and the other person is like, I can't bootstrap because my family relies on having some salary. So like there are like a lot of basics that you definitely have to discuss, address, and align on. And if some of these basics are not a match, then it will not work, I believe. And to be honest, the first 5 to 10 questions from this checklist already disqualified like 90% of the potential co-founders.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because there was like a misalignment,
Was there in this questionnaire some questions maybe that you identified like, oh yeah, this is my deal breaker, or like this is
of course.
biggest?
Yeah. So for example, when a person is a co-founder and they say like, I imagine myself working like a 4 days work week. It's just like it can work if you're building kind of a lifestyle business, but it doesn't work if you want to build and scale a venture, like a technology venture. I don't believe that it works, especially at the early stages. Or if a person join, like I had this situation, like someone wanting to join, I already have, fundraised by the time. So I already secured like pre-seed funding as a solo founder. And then you have
which is insane.
Yeah, which was quite insane, yes. And then you have potential co-founders who say like the expectation is they get like a 6-figure salary and 50% of the shares. And it's like, no, it's just like not fucking happening. Because it's very early stage. You have to give something, and you're definitely not getting like 50% when you are coming in when there are like so many things are already secured, and especially not if you believe you're getting immediately this kind of high salary. Yeah? But again, that's for me. Like for me, it didn't work. That doesn't mean that it doesn't work for other people. It was just like not a fit. And then the other, and then the other like. I'm kind of rather work part-time on this and part-time on other things. So this kind of priority stuff, yeah. And it's also about, okay, how do you want to build like a high growth company, or do you want to build something that's maybe slow and sustainable? Like for everyone, there are different deal breakers.
And when you started Mika, you were full-time working on Mika, right?
Yes.
And maybe we talk more about it, because I have to tell you that I already recommended you for like 3 different people who came up to me and they were complaining about it. Like, honestly, you probably don't even need a proper story birata. Maybe birata. Maybe this will be enough. And people are very excited about it. And I hope some of them reached out or will eventually. But I know you explained probably 1,000 times about it, but could I ask you to do it again?
To explain what Mika is?
Yeah.
So with Mika, we are building obviously an AI-based solution to cover 90% of the work that is usually done in the tax advisor's office. And why I'm saying tax advisor's office and not by a tax advisor, because especially for small businesses, most of the work is not done by a tax advisor, it's done by an accountant. And you rarely get tax advisory, especially as a small business. And I'm not saying it to blame tax advisors because they are swamped and they also don't have enough people. So we cover the whole accounting. We cover, for now, like 95% of the questions that people are asking. And for the last 5%, we inform them that that's the question that has to be discussed with a tax advisor or a lawyer. And this way, they kind of have a filter and they know what can they, help themselves with and where does it make sense to really hire and pay for a specialist. So we cover from tax registration, so steuerliche Erfassung, the first thing you have to do with Finanzamt when you start a company.
Oh, you just give me up. And I'm not even a founder, and I'm always scared of this word.
Yeah, there are like a lot of scary words in this area. Up to a yearly close. And we work with tax advisors so that we can provide founders with advice when it's needed. Yeah.
And you're the one behind building the product, coding the product, integrating AI.
So I built the first POC with which I raised money, but one of my late co-founders is CTO. So we have two people on this side. I moved to being a CEO and speaking at podcast events. And
honestly, you do great. I listened to another podcast with you. Up the hill.
Yeah.
Up and up. Loved it.
Only up and up.
It was very funny. I actually struggled. I'm like, damn it, she asks all the questions. What am I gonna ask?
No worries. Probably not everyone listened to this podcast as well.
But yeah, I also really like the topic because she was focusing. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the host.
Janine.
Focusing on socioeconomic backgrounds and how it hinders founders. Was also very not new topic to me, but happy that someone put emphasis on it.
Yeah, because I think in the whole diversity discussion, this is it's a very non-obvious aspects, which I believe is one of the biggest quote-unquote deal breakers, or like the things that is probably standing in your way sometimes more than gender or your ethnicity, but the way you grew up, your habitus, your way of speaking, your network, these are things that are different when you start growing it later in life.
So it does not replace a Steuerberater, and should clients have some financial literacy though to use it, or is it kind of plug and play?
No. So that's the point. That's exactly the point. To be honest, to get most out of a cooperation with a tax advisor, you need literacy, because then you really know what's happening. You know what you can do yourself. You know what questions to ask. And sometimes, unfortunately, that's what they expect. And you see, sometimes I'm getting a couple negative comments from tax advisors on LinkedIn. And
really?
Yeah. But that's like, that's normal. That's part of the game. That's part of the business. But we work closely with very, very good tax advisors who are actually, understand our approach. And for me, also the big goal behind Mika is my deep conviction that with generative AI, you can actually deliver expert knowledge to people who have no access to this, and deliver it in a way that they can understand and make the most out of it. So really that's the goal. And especially in financial services, like broadly speaking, financial services, I believe that generative AI can be a great tool for democratization if we use it right, because we can explain things to people. We can give them proactive advice the way they understand, So like example, like what is the first thing I built was basically an invoice analyzer, because I was so fed up for all the years with, at the end of the quarter, getting a PDF of like missing invoices or wrong invoice, or this was always like missing invoices. But then I was like, but I sent you those invoices, and it's like, yeah, but they were incorrect. And it's like, okay, but how do I make them correct? What's incorrect with them? What should I provide? And I spent so much time and energy on this, and the same, and it was also driving the cost of a tax advisor quite high, So the first thing we did is basically, we get your invoice, we match it automatically with transaction, and if the invoice is incorrect because of the incorrect, for example, incorrect VAT, which is very often when you have invoices from within European Union, especially like SaaS invoices, they usually have a wrong VAT on it, and you cannot deduct this VAT from tax, because of something that's called reverse charge, because of all the things that you don't need to, probably you don't know, but you kind of need to know. But what we do is like, okay, you will not get back this tax from this invoice. So you have to go there and there in your SaaS tool and enter this and this information to get the correct invoice the next month. Which is something you can't blame a tax advisor on not doing it, because they just like, no one is ready to pay them. This is like when it's manual work, it just takes a lot of time and just doing this kind of education. And this is also the reason why a lot of tax advisors, also good tax advisors, ethical tax advisors, they say they just can't afford taking small clients. They can't afford because they can't put the time into the education. And this is what Mika is actually doing,
This is great. This is exactly the bunch of problems I myself faced with. I'm constantly getting this PDF when I started my job. I'm like, but I sent you all the invoices. I don't know what you want from me. But in the end, I kind of had to learn it myself, which is great. So the thing you said about like having all these rules that you don't understand and you might not understand and all of that, and it resonates so well with me. It's something that I might, because of what I might not feel myself home in Germany or ever will, this like lack of knowing the rules or like lack of explanation of the rules, or like I feel like I need to, I swear there was at some point the track of my source, I'm like, I need to go and do some Ausbildung to be a tax advisor to understand this, to take some kind of course.
Or at least an accountant. But also to be a licensed certified tax advisor, that's a long way in Germany.
But that's the thing. I don't want to be licensed certified tax advisor. I want to know rules, and I feel like the knowledge is power.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, this you can do. This you can probably do as Ausbildung, Bilanzbuchhalter, or something like this.
Yeah, I feel like if there's a word Buchhalter in it, it's automatically super complicated.
Well-paying jobs.
Yeah, maybe that's going to be my next change of plans.
High in demand. High in demand. Yeah.
What is the bigger vision for Mika? Is there an idea that it's going to replace maybe fractional CFO or something like this?
I don't think in the category of replacing them, because we really address also the smallest of the companies. Like company with 10, 15, 20 people. They would not necessarily hire a CFO, especially when you look at, I don't know, small agency. Also, like one target group that we're working closely with is like handyman, craftsman companies. They will not hire a CFO, Lots of the clients don't have a concept of the CFO, It's like, okay, money comes in, money goes out. What is it there to think about,
Yeah.
Until you have some specific needs. You have a need to invest, or you have some liquidity issues. So I rather say we want to develop towards being a financial health solution for small businesses, which de facto means getting more and more into like kind of a CFO function, but for companies who would just not have the means to hire a human CFO.
That might be a question completely out of your target audience, but I'm just curious whether you would consider kind of eventually developing the tool for freelancers?
There are good tools for freelancers. So there is a tool like Accountable, which is quite good, which follows similar philosophy. The point with freelancers is there's like also limited willingness to pay, because also, I mean, of course, when you're a freelancer, you think you have a lot of bureaucracy to do, But when you were a freelancer and then you start an incorporated business, so, like a limited type of company, GmbH or UG, then you realize that was nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you get on board your first clients? Was it difficult? Was it difficult to convince people that AI can do accounting and read German bureaucracy?
So the way we started, it was way before we had any kind of AI, because we had no idea about accounting, neither me nor my co-founder really.
I'm sorry, this is just so insane to me. I keep thinking that you had such a big accounting background whenever you speak, but then I remember that you actually know.
No, I have a big background in accounting related trauma. Yeah, so I knew how it works from a customer perspective, but I didn't really know how it works from the accountant perspective. So we basically hired an accountant and, talked to a couple of friends who were starting businesses, and basically told them, we have no idea what we're doing, but we are going to do it for free, and you can't find a tax advisor anyway. And if you, at some point of time, decide that we are doing our job rather fine, then you can pay us.
Cool. How many clients you got like this?
And then there were just pilot clients, so just a couple of pilot clients. And
are they still with you?
Partially, yeah.
Nice.
Some of them are there, but some of them were just not fitting our ICP. So we parted ways, which is normal,
Yeah, absolutely.
Because at the beginning we didn't know who would be our ICP, and now we know better. So yeah.
Great. If you don't mind, I would like to talk to you about your personal branding.
Yeah.
If that's okay.
Yes, sure.
The last the episode is going to be up tomorrow is exactly about personal branding, and there's very few influencers that when I guess I'm going to call you an influencer.
Oh my God, is it an insult?
Who I really enjoy reading on LinkedIn, and I think one of the reasons, first of all, your posts pop up a lot on my feed, maybe because I interact with them a lot. But I really like the humor you use to write it, and how often you post the content, and somehow I always learn something from it. How long does it take you to be constantly present on LinkedIn?
I'm quick. I'm rather quick on this. I mean, my first career was actually journalist, so I'm not scared of writing. And of course, with the Gen AI tools that can speed it up, because then you don't have to do your manual spell check, and you can basically brainstorm some ideas and then add your, kind of your personal touch to this and so on. So, I mean, some posts are 20 minutes. Some when I created basically visual story or something like this, obviously it takes a little more time, but I never spent more than 2 hours with a post. Yeah.
How do you maintain a weekly podcast? I've seen that you have 300 episodes in 6 years, which I tried to calculate. I'm like, how is this 300?
Yes. So this is really for me, I really care very little about who and how many people listen to this, because this is for me to keep on track with the technological developments and so on, which are important for me. So this is basically my weekly educational program. And I don't have guests, which makes it much easier. So I have my co-host, who is my ex-co-founder from my first company. I mean, we've known each other for more than 15 years now. So it's easy because we don't have a lot of our preparation is 10 minutes before we start recording. So obviously each of us is preparing before, reading into the topics that are relevant to us. But this is really, for me, the best way to learn something is to teach it to others. So that's basically the idea behind my podcast.
Awesome. You also recently posted for Autism Awareness Day. Do you mind if we talk about neurodiversity?
I don't mind.
So you've spoken very openly about it, especially in the event that I met you, and I really appreciated that, because I feel like we don't talk about it enough, and it's something that really should be talked about. And how this knowledge kind of shaped the way you lead, the way you present yourself in public.
I think the knowledge of this or the diagnosis was very helpful, because then I could frame certain behaviors that might appear odd to people, and like to be honest with this or open with this, for example, with my co-founders, explaining that there are like some situations I have troubles processing, which means I will act in a way a grown-up person might not act. So I think this is helpful for creating this kind of the frame, and also it's also helpful to know that I potentially, I have to really plan, like kind of when it comes to like public appearances and like kind of networking or socializing stuff, because I know there's a limited amount of this that I can do in a short time for me to be productive. Because, if I would do like networking or public events like every day in a week, then I would probably be sick for like a week, So I think this is like important for me to or like on many levels, to kind of understand myself better, to plan better, to understand some implications, but also for like potentially others that are working closely with me to know what to expect. Yeah.
Actually, I should have asked this first, but did you know since you were a kid, or was it more you found out as an adult?
No, I like as most women, I was diagnosed in my late 30s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something. My friends recently got diagnosed with ADHD, and that's a lot of things started making sense. I'm actually considering to go through like diagnosis to see if I have anything like that.
Yeah.
So maybe more things will start making sense. Yeah, you mentioned that you have to kind of prepare for public events. You lead a very active life, I have to say. From the social media, you do so many things.
Yeah.
How do you deal with overstimulation, or how do you prevent overstimulation?
I have a very quiet and peaceful and an understanding husband. So I mean, first, I can deal with overstimulation when I'm highly motivated, because the thing that I'm doing interests me and I know why I'm doing for it. And, because some people imagine like an artist is someone like very low energy and blah, blah, which is not true. I'm very low energy on stuff that I don't care about, but I am very high energy on things that are interesting and relevant to me, which means I can only start a company out of a deep conviction. That's not for everyone the case. There are people who can just say, okay, I think there is money in this. I don't care about this topic, but I can do this. That will bore me to death, probably. So this is one thing. And another thing, I do a lot of... So I do a lot of sports, and this is like me time. I would never, like, people sometimes say, should we go for a run together? Never. Go away. I'm not running with anyone. I'm not even running. I'm sometimes run with my husband on holidays, on vacation, but that's it. I run alone. I bike alone. I swim alone. I do my stuff alone. Like, leave me alone. That's my me time. And this is very important to understand that this is kind of the me time where I can calm down. And also, sometimes when I need to quiet down, I just of course, if I'm at home, not when I'm in the office, then I go play the piano for like 10, 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just for our listeners, because I know, but they don't, you've ran, 20, 30 half marathons, 3 Ironmans?
I don't count the half marathons because they are just like preparation. But it's like in a short time, I'm running my 9th marathon. And I did 4 Ironmans and a couple of half Ironmans. Yeah.
You've mentioned also that, as you said specifically, as many women, I was diagnosed later in life. And I'd like to talk maybe a little bit about this experience of, I don't want to say being a woman, but basically, like, it's difficult to diagnose in women because we're so used to masking for societal expectations.
Yes.
And maybe when you were diagnosed, was it kind of liberating to unlearn this or to find out something about yourself in this way?
Of course it was. Also because I had like different association with autism. I mean, I basically knew that I was always weird in some way, but it's like sometimes difficult to point this weirdness to something. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in in the 90s in Poland. Like no one gives a shit about like autism or whatever. Just behave,
Yeah.
And I think like especially like highly intelligent people are good at hiding this. But so of course it was like helpful, but like does it change like a lot? Like okay, it changes because I can put a label on some things, and I maybe can explain to myself and to others, like when I sometimes like why I'm sometimes acting in the way I'm acting. But other than that, I'm still the same person. It's just like maybe probably easier to accept some level of weirdness if you know that it's not curable.
I honestly truly believe there is no such thing as neurotypical. It's just some people are better at masking shit than others, or like conforming with some expectations than others. It took me 1 hour to leave the house today, even though everything was packed. I just couldn't leave. I kept like forgetting stuff. And I hate when this happens, but like when I'm the most stressed and tired, this shit just happens.
Yeah.
So I actually should check where's my wallet, because now I'm thinking I'm lost. Yeah, I wanted to ask whether it was difficult to open up about it to your team, to say like, okay, guys, like these are my needs.
No. That's why I have these co-founders that I have. Because we are very open about a lot of shit together.
I really love that.
And I think this is important. And also we are also very open within the team. So we kind of have a user manual for every person.
I really love that, because I've been to teams where like things like that were talked around but never implemented into actual conversation within the company. So people were not accommodated. And I think it was just a big loss of resources and people.
Of course.
Oh.
And also, when you are as a boss open about like your quote unquote shortcomings or about like stuff that are maybe different than expected, then people are also more open in being themselves,
I'm sure you've heard more than one time like someone calling you a resilient founder or talking about resilience in founders. What do you think about it, whether it's over glamorized and like at what cost it comes to be a resilient founder?
Depending how you frame it, and I think I'm an extremely resilient person. It's probably one of my superpowers. One part is like being very optimistic in general, I think, and although like as probably like every woman or like every really like thinking and reflecting person, I deal with some imposter syndrome stuff and so on. But in general, I believe that you have a lot of control about your life and about what you're doing. So that's the way you become resilient, where you basically adapt to a changing situation and don't see yourself like as a victim of circumstances. Of course, it's sometimes helpful to see yourself as a victim, because then you don't blame stuff on yourself. But the question is always like, what do you do out of it? And it's for me, it's like I always see myself as an actor, as a person who can do something, who can make decisions, and this decision will impact my reality. And this is what I believe resilience is. Resilience is not stuck to what you started at all costs. That's not resilience. That's maybe kind of grit, but it can be also like kind of misunderstood and lead to very stupid decisions. And I think being an athlete help with this. Like, it doesn't bring you anything that you have an injury and you try to finish your marathon. If this will kick you out of competition for the next 2 years or something like this, And that's the same with quitting stuff that doesn't work. And I think quitting stuff that doesn't work is part of being resilient, because you need a lot of bravery to make this kind of decision and say, I quit this, or I changed this. I have to change direction completely. I invested time in something, but I'm not following the sunk cost fallacy. which is very easy to like. I invested so much time into this. That's why I'm keep pushing through. That's not necessarily always the good decision. And resilience doesn't have to do with this.
Wow, it just resonated so much with me. I'll tell you later off recording. This podcast, I don't know what's doing to me. Just keeps convincing.
Yeah, that could happen to me as well. That's
well, good that I have good wires that they hold. Since we spoke about being resilient, have you had a moment where you hit kind of not the rock bottom, but you just felt very low, being like, I cannot do this anymore. I'm just so tired. I don't want to continue. And then pick yourself up. I imagine you had this kind of moments.
Mm-hmm.
Could we talk more about it? How did you get through it?
I didn't have this with Mika, to be honest. I didn't have any of this kind of moments because I was so convinced that I really didn't have this moment. I had this with my previous startup after like a lot of like co-founder shit going on, like the one I started before starting Mika after my previous company.
Rebound startup.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like, I mean, I was just like, I was not the right fit for this company. And there was like a lot of things that I had the impression are wrong, and I was not feeling well, and I went to therapy. I can recommend it to everyone. Yeah.
Great.
Maybe. And you know, even so, that's what I mean. You like there are always ways. There are always ways to be active. There are always ways to do something. And going to therapy is like also one of the kind of steps to be resilient, because then it's like, okay, the situation is like not permanently fucked. This is like it's a situation that's temporarily fucked, and you can do something about this. Yeah.
Well, I like to say the torture is not indefinite, but the situation is temporary fucked is my next new favorite. Actually, since you mentioned therapy, which I think is very important for anyone, not just founders, but do you do it, or have you done also, or have you felt the need to do like founders coaching or like career coaching or something like that to help you to kind of how to lead a company or how to lead your team?
I had a coach in my previous company. All the coaching resulted in ending the relationship with the previous company. So I had a management coach. And we will, when we have like a little more money, we will probably also do a kind of a team coaching, co-founder coaching. I believe that's a good invest. Not long ago, I found a mentor, which is really, really great, because it's not easy to be my mentor. It's not easy to be, for me to, I don't know, look up to someone. So it was a long search.
If I may ask, because again, that's, believe it or not, it's something I've been thinking about, that I feel like I really need a mentor, someone to look up to. And I was thinking, what do I do? What do I just post on LinkedIn? I'm looking for a mentor. How?
I was thinking about this, yeah, but then it just happened to me.
Okay. There was a word about like for that in English when things.
Serendipity.
Here we go. Oh my God! Finally, was scratching my brain for like 2 weeks. That's a beautiful way to wrap up. I have some quickfire questions if you're open to them. A startup mistake you'd absolutely make again.
Trust people too quickly.
And you'd make it again?
Yes.
The best thing about building something in Berlin?
In Berlin? I don't know, just like, it's just the best city ever.
Something you're currently unlearning?
Unlearning. Doing stuff manually when I can use AI for this.
Something you're currently learning?
A lot of new AI tools.
Your favorite AI tool?
And also being a better communicator and better leader, always. Mm-hmm.
Your favorite AI tool?
There are many. I think right now, Manus AI, Manus, Manus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like an agent tool. Yeah, very cool.
And your favorite source, whether it's a book, a movie, or a podcast, or anything?
There are too many to tell. So obviously my favorite podcast is my podcast, Zurück zur Zukunft, which is in German and is a very, very, very good source of information. That's why I'm doing it. So I have this information.
Great way to practice German also. That's
Sorry?
That great way to practice German. That's how I kind of taught myself German, listening podcasts.
Yeah, might be a bit complicated when...
No, it's interesting.
But yeah, yeah. And I think, there are like so many books. I can't say there's like one. But I read a lot of books. I read a lot of books because I think they always like trigger something, and you get new inspiration, new ideas that you can use. So yeah.
Do you get information better when it's like in a form of audio or through reading or through a movie? Or like video, I mean.
By applying it yourself, it probably is the best. But I indeed listen to a lot of audiobooks, also because I run so much. So I sometimes listen to audiobooks and then I pause and then I reflect and then whatever. I mean, pause the book, not the running, of course. And yeah, so like it's depending on the kind of knowledge, when it's something to just feed your brain, then I think listening is very good for like getting inspiration. I'm a kind of auditive, I have good auditive memory. But sometimes like when it really has to like go in and you want to analyze it, it's written. But the best way is to learn stuff is like applying it. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for the episode. I really enjoyed talking to you. I've been stressing out a little bit.
Why?
Well, because I misspelled your name, and this person who's always like name spelled Anaita or anything but Anaita. I felt so bad like for the whole week.
It happens to me very often. But then I just I pointed out before it happens the third time. So.
No, fair. But yeah, you're also my second guest who I've never spoke before the episode.
Funny.
So I'm happy that I actually really enjoyed the episode, and I hope you did too.
Yeah, thank you.
This was my conversation with Agnieszka Walorska. I really appreciated her honesty about things we don't often hear in startup stories. The moments where things fall apart, the cost of always pushing forward, and the strength it takes to say, this isn't working, without seeing it as a failure. If you want to learn more about what Agnieszka is building at Mika or listen to her own perspective on emerging tech, you'll find all the useful links in the episode description. As always, I'm taking on freelance work. If you need support with financial management, public funding, or operations, let's talk. And if you found me through the podcast, you get a discount because good things should come from good conversations. I'm Anaita Azizi. Thanks for tuning in to Change of Plans. And remember, change is never a failure. It's the first step. See you next time.